Yo, 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 what up, homies? If you're tuning in again or for the first time, I appreciate your company. Made a ton of progress yesterday on this piece of art, this very fancy piece of art. And while I was offline, I took a little bit of time to do some slight rearrangements. I flipped the direction of the automaton because I really just felt like it complemented the picture a little bit better. It showed a little bit more of his body, and actually put his crossbow and toolkit in the correct hands. So it broadened the image a little bit. It's not quite as tight as it was, and that actually might be a good thing in my opinion. So what we're looking at here is I've black and whited out the color I started yesterday because I intend to start the background sketch today and see where that goes. While I was offline, I finished the color block out for each character. I'm just going to use the black and white to keep it from distracting from the rest of my work. So when we left off, we had completed the incubus. The goblin was also completed, and the insectoid was mostly done, and so now I've colored his quiver, arrows, and I've given him a leather jerkin. And the automaton had not yet been started, and now she is done as well. And yes, I did call her a she because if you pick a female automaton in Barony, she has a blue light on her face, whereas a male automaton has a yellow light. And you can see that her boiler is also glowing blue. That happens when you superheat your boiler and are regenerating mana at an increased rate. And so, given how it matches her head, I thought it would be cool to give her the blue. So, there's all four together. Full color block out. I think the contrast is okay. There's a little bit more brown in this image than I kind of would like so far. Because, you know, even the automaton is made out of bronze or brass. He, or she rather, it shares similar tones as, you know, leather does with the browns that are all over the rest of this image. And we're just going to have to find the strength to pull through that problem, aren't we? I think I'll get over it. Hopefully you can too. But yeah, that said, I like that the red incubus is contrasting with the green characters on his left and right, and I think the gold of the automaton also contrasts pretty nicely with the green and red surrounding him. So, not so bad, although because of this, I do intend to put a little more color into the background by picking a location in the game that is a little more colorful. One of the other things I did compositionally is I just moved the whole image to the left a little bit. Since these two ranged characters are pointing off screen, I felt like I wanted to be able to draw the eye a little bit more to that direction if it struck my fancy. Depending on how the background sketch goes, I might actually even pull it further, so we shall see. I think for now it will be wise for me to at the very least dim these. Oh, you know what? I made a mistake. Here we go. The mistake I made is that these black bars are part of this sketch now, which is not intended. Okay, and now we can, just dim these a little bit so I can still see through them as I'm sketching, but I can also be aware of what is not going to be included in some of the art. So like you can see these areas right here, right here, right here, and right here. Because they're dark gray, they will actually never be seen in any key art. And so it would be wise for me to not spend a lot of time in those areas, although I won't be able to help but make, it somewhat compositionally, or at least thematically useful, so I will have a complete piece when I'm done, and not like a weird plus-shaped piece, I'd like the art to be able to stand alone as a whole unit, even if its composition isn't designed for that completely. Alright, so let's just get down to it, I suppose. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to make my drawing layer right underneath the characters so I can see very clearly what lines will and will not be seen. You know, I had another thought too. Well, I can do more foreground stuff here if I leave it tall. Let's see how it goes. So when thinking about the locations of the game that would suit these characters, for the Myths and Outcasts DLC, I put them in the mines, and one of the reasons for that is that all these guys are shown with their starting equipment, and if you've played Barony, you know you don't hang on to just starting equipment for some time, so it doesn't really make sense logically for those characters to be further down in the dungeon than the mines. But that said, I think I'm gonna have to let go of that fantasy just because I don't want to show the mines again. It's too brown and gray, and I want these guys, the piece featuring these guys, to stand out more from that last piece we did. So it's crossed my mind that maybe I can show a secret area, or maybe use the ruins or someplace like that, which has a lot of color on the walls. So immediately I'm trying to create some depth here by having a hallway. That you can't fully see into, but makes it feel like more than you're just looking at some dumb wall. And we're gonna make the walls a little wobbly on purpose so that we can add texture with giant bricks and things that look a little rough hewn. One of the other things I could do is I could actually make this... I could make this a gap. That would actually be really cool to add some depth. To make this a like a bridge and a pit, which are things that Barony does feature. Should be a very different feeling piece from the last one if I feature a pit. And then in this no man's land, nothing's going to be there, so... I'm wondering if it might be a better idea for me to put the pit to the left of these guys, where it might be a little more interesting. So... I'm just freehanding these perspective lines like a baller. I do a lot of freehanding. Like, it's probably one of the reasons why I'm not a professional industry concept artist. Not that this isn't professional, you know, not that this work isn't worthy of being professional, but your work just kind of has to be perfect when you're being paid by a mega publisher to put it together, you know. And I just kind of do it, put as much effort into it as is fun for me. I'm not really ashamed of that, you know. It's just part of who I am as an artist, which is why I got into game design. So funny. Yeah, it's fun. And I can play with the perspective a little bit, and just make the excuse that, you know, the dungeon is rough-hewn. It wasn't planned by an engineer or an architect. It's just sort of dug out roughly by monsters and slaves and things. So it's not exactly a feat of engineering. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm starting to sound like Bob Ross. Big line to try to draw freehand straight. Instead, why don't I, maybe I can look at doing like a column or something here. Trying out a new station today. What's up, Happy Havoc? This is Affinity Photo. I was using Photoshop for, you know, literal decades. And I don't have anything against Photoshop, except I really don't prefer the subscription model. I like to own my software and just be done with it, and I'm happy to pay for it when I do that. And Affinity Photo had their product on sale for like $40, and I did a little research, and it's very similar to Photoshop in most meaningful ways for when it comes to like 2D painting and stuff, and even some of the photo editing that I like to do sometimes. And so yeah, I've been very happy with it. Like I said, $40, and I own it forever. Like, get out of here. Of course, it's a good deal. Alright. What brings you to the stream, Happy Havoc? So I got some pillars put in there. Those are prominent in the ruins. So we'll just put some implications that they have that sort of fluted texture that the columns in the ruins have. And the bridges in the ruins are made of tile. Although, of course, everything in Barony is made of tiles. I see there is some more mechanical type stuff. Yeah, so what you're seeing back here with this character is a representation of our Mechanist class and the Automaton playable race from our upcoming DLC. So the Blessed Edition added automatons as non-playable races. And so they've been in since that point, but now we're letting most all of the humanoid races, the humanoid monster races being playable, and the automaton is among them. And it was a really good opportunity for us to revamp the lockpicking skill, because like many RPGs, like Bethesda games included, lockpicking is like one of the most useless skills in these games. And I've always thought to myself, like, I don't think it's that hard to make that skill more valuable. It just seems like developers don't put in the effort. And so I pitched that we increase the value of the lockpicking skill by changing its name to Tinkering, and have all sorts of machine work, like traps and other kinds of gadgets, be usable with the Tinkering skill. And so the lockpicking skill is officially being replaced with the tinkering skill, and although it can still lockpick, you'll be able to do so much more with it. And I am very much looking forward to seeing how players react to that, because I think it's a really positive change. Yeah, and it's like the same case with, it's almost the exact same story with every RPG I've played that has a lockpicking skill. It's like, yeah, you can pick locks, but there's like a magic skill that you can also learn that allow you to unlock any lock magically, and then you can also do 100 other things with that magic skill. And so it feels like a, you know, definitely a, like something that the game designers didn't really think through when it comes to balance. I don't really like how that bridge lines right up against a wall. I'm gonna do something else. So a lot of the things that the Mechanist class and anybody with a high tinkering skill can get are traps that you can lay down. You've got this little guy right here. He's the gyrobot. You can build him and he can help you detect things. He's a mobile light source as well. And you have like many different choices about the different kinds of traps that you can spend your materials on building. So that's all pretty exciting for me. I think it's gonna be pretty cool stuff. I've done some playthroughs using the Mechanist, and they are just unlike any other playthrough I've done in Barony. It's kind of a blast. A blasty blast, as my brother would say. Alright, I can just push this wall out just a taste. Actually, we can make this a pillar also, and just have it like butt up against a wall, just so it can be a little more interesting to look at. I don't like this song. Sorry. I picked a synthwave station because I sort of like the simple synth melody. I don't need all that wub right now. There we go, back to synthwave. Lyrics. So I'm gonna have a few characters in the scene like that they're ready to engage in a fight with. Maybe we can do an imp. Imps actually aren't really common in the ruins. Do I care? I think I don't care. I think I wanna draw an imp, you know? So I'm trying to get a little impression of an imp over here. I think I should probably spend a little less time on the specifics on him until I have a good pose for him down. Here, let's not worry that much about making that imp perfect right now. I need to be drawing characters on a new layer. For the moment, what I need to focus on is making sure the environment is correct. It's just distracting me to not have the pit under the shadow all blacked out like that. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take care of some of that depth. Better. Now in the final version this probably won't be pitch black like this, but right now it is. And it's just helping me get a better sense of what this is going to look like in a way that matters to me. It ain't perfect, but I never said it was going to be. Okay, so that's actually a decent setting, I would say, for where this should start out. I'm probably going to want a character here, and a character here, and a character here. And maybe some kind of either a threat or an interesting prop here. Maybe like a, I could do a fountain. And maybe some like objects on the floor here. I could actually have the insectoid aiming down at something like a slime. That could be fun. Or maybe a scarab beetle, a scorpion. If any of those ideas sound more interesting to you, let me know. I actually kind of like the idea that the insectoid's directly aiming at something in the image, some character, whereas the automaton is aiming at something off screen. And maybe there's another foreground character here, and it could be like a succubus, somebody that maybe the incubus is going to go recruit, or maybe like a human that everyone's going to have to fight. Actually, this like little blob layer is kind of useful for me. I'm going to keep it on for now. Gives you something to look forward to. So over here, I feel like I want to draw like a troll, maybe, or maybe a human. Oh, maybe like a caster getting ready to cast a spell, like an angry human caster. Blob layer MVP. Agreed, thank you. Anybody have any thoughts on like the gender of this caster? Maybe some equipment they should have? I could have them using a book and a staff. So we're creating the illusion that this character is running towards them, I guess. I mean, does that even look any good? Maybe? We'll call that wizard, and do something else on our blob layer. Blob layer MVP. I think I'm gonna have a gnome running at them like the world's angriest gnome. I could put the gnome over here next to the insectoid. That'd be funny. It's funny because I've never drawn a picture of one of Barony's gnomes, so I have like an opportunity here to decide what their personality is, which is both an obligation and a blessing. I think I might try the fountain idea here for this blob. Get the bird puking blessed water into a basin. You know? It's like a bird bath, but more religious. I didn't play the classic roguelikes back in the day, like, you know, Rogue and NetHack. And so my first exposure to, you know, an altar that you go up and receive a random effect, whether it be a blessing or some type of a curse, was from Diablo 1, the shrines. And it's funny because the shrines in Diablo 2 really didn't resemble that gameplay concept at all. They were all just exclusively good things. I mean, I guess they had monster shrines, but like the player still wanted to do them all because it would grant them extra loot when you kill the unique that spawned, that kind of thing. Whereas the original shrines were a lot more, you know, you may or may not want to use them, and it's just sort of a matter of chance if you decide to push your luck. Like, if you're doing really well, you might go ahead and push your luck because you know whatever the game does to you, you can probably handle it. But if you're like already suffering, well, I guess if you're hopeless, you might do it on the chance it'll end, put an end to whatever problem you're having. Anyway, I guess as much as like randomness in games is controversial, and I think it does often add a lot more interesting choices to the player, as long as the player gets the opportunity to decide if they're going to engage with that chance mechanic or not. Like, it's on them for engaging, knowing that the chance may or may not pay off. And over time, you can learn what the possibilities are of the types of things that could happen, and so you can kind of measure your odds a little more wisely. I might change the bird. I'm not super happy with the fact that it's facing the camera makes it feel a little bit artificial. I'm gonna make it a lot smaller, even though the one in the game is pretty big, and then have it facing the team. I think it'll feel a little less goofy that way. And I can really give it more of that classic bird shape rather than like playing with the perspective of the bird. Okay, that's actually, in my opinion, a lot better. All right. So we got a fountain in here. We're gonna have an imp. I think I'll I could make this the gnome over here. This is the fountain. My music cut out? No, it's still going. All right. Have this imp cradling some spell in his claws. I guess there's a case to be made for this being the underworld, maybe. But then I'd have to draw skulls everywhere. I don't know if I really want to spend too much time justifying where this is in the game, you know? I just want it to be a cool dungeon location that has a lot in common with places in Barony. Alright, so we got an imp. I could probably move him forward a little bit. Oops, he's on the same layer as the fountain. What am I doing with that foot? That makes no sense at all. Guess I went on autopilot for a second there, guys. Sorry.
Ecstasy is a street name for the drug methylene deoxymethamphetamine, MDMA, an amphetamine-based synthetic drug with euphoric effects. Stimulant drugs speed up the messages
Cool song, guys.
between the brain and the body and can make a person feel more awake, alert,
Let's call this blob layer.
more energetic.
And this one is background. Yeah, environment.
More energetic.
I think I'd like to try making this an imp, or not an imp, but a gnome.
Ecstasy is a street name for the drug methylene deoxymethamphetamine, MDMA, an amphetamine-based synthetic drug with euphoric effects. Stimulant drugs speed up the messages between the brain and the body and can make a person feel more awake, alert, confident, or energetic. Tick, 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 more energetic. Tick, 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 tick.
I mean, is this being a gnome a dumb idea? I mean, he's definitely a David the Gnome type, you know? Like, he's not even trying to pretend he's not a garden gnome. Speaking of gnomes, you guys remember the last episode of David the Gnome when him and his wife just like, alright, time to die, and then they turned into trees? Pretty grim for a kid's show. Any gardens in Barony? In the ruins, honestly, kind of. There's houses, like manors and stuff, and there's like outdoor grassy areas in those manors. They're just like a couple tiles wide, and you might call that a garden. And there are gnomes in the ruins, so I mean, I'm making a pretty solid case for that being true. I gotta come up with a good perspective for this pickaxe. I feel like it'd be easier to have a computer do it for me. Like, it makes perfect sense that the haft of the pickaxe would end here. And so, top and bottom of the pickaxe can be here. As long as I follow an arc, it should be consistent. Yeah, that just doesn't look like a pickaxe from that angle. I mean, I don't think the perspective was incorrect. It's just, it would be interesting if there were gnomes that were stationary near the houses and some were real and attack if you get near it. That's actually a really funny idea. The idea of like there being decoy gnomes. That's super fun. I like that suggestion. Yeah, we don't have any enemies like that that are like you know, statues. Like some of them are real and some of them aren't. I mean, really the closest thing like that we have is that sometimes you have traps that are inactive, and like won't spit out boulders, but then other times they will, and you kind of got to be cautious just in case. And it's either because the trap is activated in a certain way, or or they lose their train of thought. Just kidding. Or they've already been activated and you're not aware of it. And so, like, there's still all of them traps. There's no trap that isn't actually a trap in Barony. So, the idea of some kind of a decoy is, I think that's something that would definitely add a different element to the game. It just doesn't look right. There we go. Yeah, adjust this arc so its apex is parallel to the rest half there. So I don't consider myself a video editor type guy. It's not something I spend a lot of time on, and you know, I didn't dislike doing it in college, but like, I definitely didn't go out of my way to do it any more than my classes required. And so it's just kind of funny, like last night, deciding that I wanted to upload yesterday's live stream to YouTube, and I just have some personal standards about, you know, editing the video a little bit so that I cut out a lot of dead time, so that I'm not having a video where there's like a good half hour of empty air. Because on YouTube, I just don't think that's acceptable as a consumer, you know? When I'm on YouTube, I'd be like, wow, you couldn't even take the time to cut out, like, save me 30 minutes by you taking 10 minutes to cut out. But man, it takes a long time to render video. It's kind of funny how long it takes, because I just don't understand what it's actually doing, you know? Like, I'm already looking at a complete recorded video in the program that I can play in real time, and it works perfectly exactly as I've edited it. But then as soon as I click render, it's like, cool man, give me 4 hours. And of course it's a 5-hour video, so like maybe that's impressive or something, but it just blows my mind that takes time. Especially if what you're editing requires effects. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm not getting into that at all. It's just like, that's like a whole skill that I'm not prepared to go and deal with, you know, trying to get good at with all the other things I'm trying to do with my hobbies in life. Alright, so now that I've gotten this pickaxe in acceptable state, I mean, can I look back at this picture and be like, yes, this gnome makes this picture better? To be fair, he's going to be kind of hiding underneath the logo or whatever. He's just so big. It seems like he's taking up a lot of space for what he is. What is this? Let's make this not a smile. Alright, this gnome's got some hustle. He's heading that away. How ridiculous that I put a gnome here. You know? Okay, no guarantee that this gnome is making it in. No guarantees. I think I might move this fountain up to help the perspective of the gnome a little better. Okay, we have an angry human in the distance. I could put like another adventurer behind him, like a knight or something. Actually, this item right here, I could have a turret. So the automaton gets to put down turrets, or not the automaton, but the mechanist can put down turrets. And so I could show that off in this scene a little bit. Or I could just put like a trap down. Actually, I like the idea of putting down one of the automaton traps, or the machinist traps. I keep saying that. Oh, what an idiot. Okay, we'll put one of his little traps on the bridge to show that it's gonna catch that human wizard back there. So the traps that he lays out are kind of like a mix between GoldenEye 007's proximity mines. You like toss them out and they stick to stuff. They're a blast to play with. But they can also have all sorts of different effects. I guess also like GoldenEye, they have different effects. So yeah, they look like this little thing that attaches to the ground, and then there's a glowing light on top that indicates what type of trap it is. And these little like claws stick out to show that it's sticking to whatever surface it's on. So we got one of those there. And I could put a crossbow sentry here, which is one of the mechanist items. Let's draw another character back here, like a hooded rogue of some kind. And I'm always a little rough with this first composition pass because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, and I'm going to go over all of it again with finer ink in the future. Alright, so we got two characters running over here. I think his angle's a little wonky. Let's correct that. I love working in a digital medium. I guess it's a blessing and a curse because, like, that would be a fix that would have taken some time in a traditional medium. But because I can do it this way, it means my art is a lot better than it has any right to be compared to how long it used to take to do art. Okay, two guys running from over there. We have a trap, we have an imp, we have a fountain, we have this gnome, and then right here, we're gonna have some kind of a monster right in front of the insectoid. So, I was gonna say one of the bugs like a scorpion or a scarab, but if the insectoid's attacking it, it should probably not be a bug, and instead it might be best if it's an actual blob from the blob layer. Oh, a rat. I could do a rat. But I'm honestly loving the idea of a slime, just because I haven't gotten to draw one. I don't know. Rats are pretty cool. I did draw rats in some of the DLC art. Not the DLC art, the card art. Let's see how this turns out for now. Slime would be cool. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you think so. I'm just happy somebody is watching, so I like really wanted to think about your suggestion with sincerity because, like, I do like giant rats. All right. So we'll just have some we'll have some stuff like floating in the slime to show how menacing it is. I'll have like a ring floating in it. And then like another bone. It's probably like a femur maybe. And some bubbles. Maybe a potion. It's just like the dungeon's natural vacuum cleaner, just going around sucking things up. Here, he can be reading a book. That's fun. All right. I don't know. Maybe the book was too far. I think the book is too sophisticated. We already have 2 books in this scene anyway. The Incubus has got one, and so does that wizard back there. So I don't need to show off books anymore. A simple scroll will be enough. Maybe a rat. You're a character. I like your idea, and I want to subscribe to your blog. Here, let's go ahead and put a rat in here. It's gonna be a dead rat, of course. Just like mostly digested. There we go. An adorable rat. Alright, some bubbles for good measure. Alright. I dare say this might be the world's finest slime. And this is where he's touching the floor. Okay. Alright, this is starting to look like a full image with all these things in it. So a couple more things. Okay, this is the slime. All right. Just got a little floor space here and here that I can do something with. I can put a bear trap, I guess. I'm digging this this station. So if you weren't here yesterday, I for the first time found a station that or started using a service that is built specifically for streaming tunes, where you won't run into like royalty, copyright issues. And I really need something to listen to while I work. And so I found this service called Pretzel, and lets me play all of these musics without having my stream get muted for copyright concerns. I was so surprised the first time that happened to me. I don't stream much, and so like I didn't know it was a big deal to just listen to music while I'm working. It's like, you know, it seemed like the kind of thing that would be allowed. Like, after all, I was listening to the music for free, so why can't I stream it for free? But I guess my audience isn't engaging in the same advertisements that I have to. I don't know. Whatever the case, I entered that pretty naively. So I was very happy to find some quality tunes on Pretzel. And even tunes that I had never heard before. Like, I don't know what this song is, but it's awesome. It's right in the kind of genre that I like. Alright, so we got ourselves a bear trap. And those are not new to this game, but they are something that players are likely to use a little more because the machinist class can make them. Music is one of the biggest things that gets copyrighted. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, like, I get it. Like, I'm not offended. Like, especially as a content creator myself, like, I get that, you know, somebody spent money to make that music and express themselves, and they deserve to be paid for it. But at the same time, people are hyper vigilant about that stuff. Okay, so this is the mine. I'm thinking about just duplicating this mine a few times and copying it across the environment. The other thing I could do is put a tripod here. The only thing I don't like about a tripod there is that it's gonna get real close to the gyro in the foreground there. Try this instead. I'm drawing with a different angle. Somebody just talked to me in my intercom. I'm just gonna ignore it. Okay. Alright, so we got 3 mines, we got a bear trap, we got a slime, an imp, a fountain, a gnome, and I guess that's it. Gotta name this layer, otherwise I'll forget. Alright. Well, this came together a little faster than I thought it would, honestly, especially because I was kind of approaching the idea of it a little bit randomly. I'm like, what goes here, what goes here? Hold on a second here. Sorry about that. So our workplace is moving offices, and they just got rid of some like really cheesy intercoms, and they were like throwing them in the trash because they hated the quality of them so much. And I'll admit, you know, they're not great, but they're kind of like the quality of walkie-talkies. You know, like the kind of walkie-talkie that a kid would use, except for you can plug them in and leave them on all the time, and so it's like. It's really not an awful solution for having a house where it's, you know, me and my family, we have a house where some of the parts of the house are a little harder to hear from one place to the next. And so we kind of have a legitimate need for an intercom type system. And these things were free. So, I mean, worse than free. I had to dig them out of garbage. Because I'm like, I think this would be useful. I'm going to give it a try. That's been cool, but of course my kids just like it for the novelty, and so they're like using it whenever. You know, I ain't mad about that, but show a little respect, kiddos. I'm trying to stream here. Okay, so I would like to polish up the environment a little bit before I move on to like towards an inking pass. Although some of these things I did a pretty good job on my first run through. So I could like cut this off here. So, because I don't want this to look like the underworld, I'm going to try to imply that these are worn down bricks rather than like, you know, like hellscape like you would find in the underworld or hell levels, where it's just like it's natural earth, but it's like all craggy and awful because it's hell. Instead, I'm gonna try to make this look like deteriorated brick, because that's what the ruin is filled with brick. It doesn't necessarily look that deteriorated, but for the sake of this image, it's gonna, baby. It's gonna. Can I call you baby? Don't say no. You're all I've got. I'm not really talking to an individual. I'm talking to the open air of the stream. Trying to have a good time over here. I'm trying to have some fun over here. Just add a little texture to the world here. Alright, I'd say that was about the style I'm looking to achieve. Zorb, 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 zorb. Warb, 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 warb. I'm gonna mark the edge of the bridge with some like stones or something so it looks a little more natural. You know, in game they're just straight flat across, and that's just a limitation of our engine to some degree, but I don't need to replicate that here. Oh yeah, baby, get that drum machine. Dooba 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 doo. And try to imply some bricks in here so I don't obligate myself to draw literally every brick. There's a reason why I do like a comic book style cartooning. Comic book cartooning style in my drawings, and that's because I find realism to be profoundly uninteresting to execute upon. Of course, no offense to anyone that likes realism in their artwork, but and I respect the dedication and work that it takes. But I like to do art for the inventiveness of it and the creating of something that hasn't been seen before. So the idea of like spending ages making a rock look exactly like it does in real life is kind of antithetical to the things I like about art. So just enough of what makes a rock remind you of a rock and give you the impression that it's a rock. That's enough for me. You know? If you can tell what it is and you like how it looks, like, it's fine. And whatever. Some people only like it if it looks absolutely real. That's fine. There's plenty of people for whom making it look exactly realistic is what they want to do with their life. And I found that it seems like a lot of those folks don't really care that much if it's original or not either. So we can exist in two separate, and when I say original, I mean a unique idea that hasn't been done before. We can exist comfortably in two separate spaces as far as I'm concerned. And they are partially lost to the void. Oh, you're talking about when I when I blacked that out. That's really funny. Never mind. Yeah. You ever think about taking your art live streams and turning them to speed paints? Not really. I haven't really practiced speed painting to the point where I'd feel really comfortable doing it. You know, honestly, like doing key art like this, where I care a lot about the details and getting everything just right, is a rarity for me. Like, I kind of rather doodle to get ideas out. I don't know if you've taken a look at the when you say speed paints, are you talking about like a time lapse, or are you talking about legit painting as fast as you can and getting a cool result? Because I wouldn't mind speeding up the video, but more so a time lapse, yeah. So one of my videos on YouTube is sped up by like 4x, and so it's still almost an hour, but it's a lot faster, and so you can see the progress. It's a lot, you know, I know that watching this may not be that super interesting because of how slow it is to come together. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind, like, throw them all together quickly. Unfortunately, the video editing software I use isn't really great at speeding up. Like, it only has options for, like, going up to double speed. And so when I created the video where it's going up to, like, 4x or 8x speed, whatever it is, like, I had to just run it through the video rendering process a few times to kick out a video at the right speed. So it was, like, a lot more work than it should have been for something as simple as that, you know? But if I had a better solution for that, I might put them all up as time lapses. I think it would be fun to watch them. So, like, especially if you look at my last YouTube video, like, there's a ton of experimentation that went nowhere. And I think that's how a lot of good art works, you know? You try stuff, it doesn't work, you try more stuff, it doesn't work, until you find the solution you're happy with, and then you let it go. And be okay with the fact that, you know, it may not be perfect, but at least, excuse me, at least it's pretty close to what you're going for. And, so, like, watching that happen in a few minutes as opposed to over the course of hours, I could see being much more entertaining than watch me sort of, like, fumble my way through, like, posing and, you know, like, I redrew this imp over here, like, 3 or 4 times before I was like, okay, yeah, that's how an imp should look. And I don't blame anybody for not wanting to stick around for all that. It's a long process. But yeah, generally, the type of 2D art I do for games is really quick stuff. So, I don't know if you've gone to the Turning Wheel Devblog, but I have a post in there called Barony Monster Edition, where I talk about how a bunch of the monsters got added to the game for the Blessed Edition. And that's Blessed Addition with an A. And because puns. And if you go and look at the concepts there, like, I crapped out those concepts in, like, you know, an hour or two, you know? Like, I like working fast, I like getting the ideas out and moving on, and in the in-game result, you can't tell that the sketches were that rough, and certainly if you look at a piece of key art like this, you can't tell that this insectoid right here, like in that concept piece, he looks like really goofy. Like, here, I'll pull it up because it's easy. Okay, so here it is. Open image and new tab. So this right here, this goofy image, is what we based our insectoid model on for Barony. And it's in the game, and he looks cooler than this, but this is all the drawing I need to do to understand the idea, and I left it at that. I'm like, good enough, moving on. And so, like, compare that to this image right here, where I've obviously taken a lot of time to get this insectoid looking right. You know, that took a lot longer, but it's the same exact idea, and the game isn't any different for the fact that I didn't draw him at this level of detail before I put him in the game. Where did I put my pen? I, like, put my pen down so I could get this, so I could operate my mouse, and then I lost my pen. Feeling like a dummy. I gotta turn on a light. Give me a quick second. I am digging your comments. Happy Havoc. It too was lost to the void. So yeah, I have a black shiny table, and this is a black shiny stylus, and so it was just completely lost. I did get up and take a quick bathroom break while I had the video off. I was like, I might as well. So once I had the light on, it was no problemo. Derpy Bug. That is a totally fair way to describe him. And so anyway, just to complete the conversation, you look at this colored insectoid. Well, that's not how it's supposed to look. Yeah, this colored insectoid. Obviously, a lot more time went into him, but the only reason why I spent so much time on it is because I knew the audience was going to see it, you know? Like, I don't need to spend a ton of time making a little piece of concept art look good, as long as, you know, if the final piece is done as a 3D model, as long as I know what I'm doing. But something like this, where this is the product and this is what you're consuming, you know, I want it to look nice, and so I spent a hell of a lot more time to make it look cool. Yeah, so I'm kind of pragmatic as an artist, which I don't know, maybe that is atypical for artists in general, to be pragmatic rather than just following their heart and being like, it must look perfect for it is my art. It's just not the type of artist I've ever been. It has to be perfect for a purpose, and I'm okay with that. I hope you like that look behind the scenes. Okay, so that brick has come together. This is starting to be convincing to me that it could be the ruins. Those bricks, in theory, should be blue, because that's what they are. The walls are blue in the ruins. The floors are gray, but I might mix it up between blue and gray or something else because it's a lot of floor space that I gotta cover. I think I want to draw some shadows under these guys' feet. Actually, speaking of shadows, I need to decide where my light source is coming from. So I kind of like the idea that there's an onslaught and they're being assaulted from every direction, and so like the light source being on them would be really appropriate, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, nobody's holding a torch. The only thing that's lights up in here is the oh, I was gonna say the automaton, but we've also got the gyro, who has the ability to shine light all around him, and so I could flip the gyrocopter around and have it pointing at this group so that they're in sort of like a spotlight, whereas all this danger is closing on them. I kind of like that. I may try to do something with that. Okay, I just want to talk that through. It's interesting the difference of what works for a game versus what works for an illustration, especially in terms of color. That is interesting. I'm curious, like, what you mean by that, because I do agree with the statement, but the reason why I think would vary from context to context. So, like, you know, like in an open world game, you kind of never know when an asset is going to be used with another asset, and so you either got to be really, really hyper controlling about your color palette across all assets, or you kind of pick inoffensive colors that generally work well together no matter where they're used, and you just let the world artist spam those assets all over the place. So I don't know. I'm curious if you have some examples, because I think that would be an interesting conversation. I guess another thing in games is that there's a usability problem. In illustration, you don't have to worry about usability in the traditional sense. With something like Barony, with the voxel style colors, empty space might not seem as empty, whereas here, you have to color it more dynamically. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in an illustration, you've only got one scene, and that scene has to do all of the heavy lifting visually. Whereas in Barony, or in really most games, the world is dynamic to the player, and you can't guarantee the player's camera is going to frame like a perfect shot. But as an illustrator, you're like obligated to make your one shot the perfect shot every time. So yeah, I think we're on the same page. So the only drawing I've done of the ruins is in one of the Steam trading cards. So the Steam trading cards, all of them right now anyway, are all they all are called Death by something. And then I drew a scene of a character dying by that something. And so in Death by Strangulation, I had a female warrior being choked out by an amulet. And each one of them has a quote of the last words from that character right before their death. And like, I don't know how much the fans appreciated that, but it was so fun to put it together. And for Barony, it was definitely the most time I had spent on illustration. And I think, like, my style for Barony's key art has evolved a lot since then. Like, my proportions and my fidelity of, like, you know, I was comfortable being a lot more sort of cartoony and, like, whimsical, like, low effort in my color work. But my standards have gone up for whatever reason. Maybe I've just gotten more comfortable. I think part of it could be is that when I did those, I was mostly drawing on my laptop using a traditional Wacom tablet, but now I'm using my Cintiq in my office, and so, like, because I have this wonderful tool available to me, it's a lot more pleasurable to work with it and spend more time doing something that's, like, worth the time, you know. All right. Did I move that gnome all the way over here? I guess I did. Let's touch up the... Oh, come on. Is this busy enough? I've got this, like, ridiculously busy image, and I say to myself, is it busy enough, though? So, in the widescreen version, you get the imp, which you don't get at all, really, in the vertical version. And you get all of the slime, so that's cool. In the vertical version, you get the gnome, which you almost don't get at all, and you get a lot more of the fountain. I think that the vertical version also exposes these two guys who live in the void. That's what those gray areas are. Yeah, that's right. I explained that at the beginning of the stream, but you must have not been here right away. Yeah, I don't want to do two pieces of key art, like one for vertical box art and one for horizontal box art and like wallpapers and stuff. And so I try to do this one massive piece of key art that can compositionally serve both purposes. And, you know, I think as a piece, like a square piece like this is, I think it still works, like it holds up. Even though basically no one will ever see it like this. But it's fun. It's kind of a fun way to do it. I don't know if anyone else does it that way. I imagine a lot of people do. Although I've noticed a lot of box art is really, really simple. Yeah, dude, this vertical is, I think that's a winner. And the horizontal, I think, is also a winner. Like, I'm really happy with this. Really, really moody. Alright, so I probably need to turn the gyro. There's a lot of blank space in between the gnome and the fountain. It could be busier. Yeah, you're right. So that, however, is where I will put the game logo, is in that empty spot. On the widescreen, I'm going to have a little harder time finding empty spots to put the logo. I'd probably put it up here in the top right corner. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be tough. Trying to find a place in the widescreen version for the logo. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. In the Myths and Outcasts DLC key art, I did have a big empty space in the middle as well, and I took advantage of that. That's goofy gnome. What a dork. Gnomes, am I right? Alright. Alright, so... Oh, what the heck did I do? Oh. Sorry, just clicking on menus, accidentally doing stuff. Let's move these characters up to the top. 2 of the mines and be okay. Yeah, I think so too. I'm just gonna make sure not to cover up the Goblin Shaman there. She's one of the stars of the show, you know. I could actually move the horizontal orientation so that I'm focusing up higher. That would give me more room to do that, and that could look okay. And just like cut off the Incubus's feet, like that's not that big of a deal. And that would give me more space for the logo. We'll just leave this here for now though. Alright, so we got our color back in. And now it's time to think about lighting. So I'm just gonna do like a linear lighting pass. Considering this this little robot as kind of the source. I could pretend like the gyro is like really is actually above them rather than right next to the automaton, and that would allow me to make their shadows less long. Because dealing with long shadows I don't think is ideal. We're just sort of drawing some pretend shadow shapes here. Some of that. Okay, and then we got our insectoid pal. A shadow pass like this is not something I did on the previous bit of key art, and I think I'm doing it now because, like, I think the lighting on the previous one was not as well thought out as it should have been. Well, the big problem with having these guys lit this way is that literally, well, the automaton is the only one that's not backlit, and I don't think that's gonna play well. Backlighting all these characters I don't think is necessarily wise. So while I spend a little bit of effort getting these shadows to look like decently correct, I think I should abandon them. The other thing I can do is I've got this imp over here. He's making a fireball. I can do a nice strong directional light from the right side here and pair that with a strong directional light from the top right and give everybody sort of a front right lighting, which is a lot easier to execute and have it look good, rather than beat my head against trying to make this other solution work, which could take forever and could still turn out bad. Could have some sort of spell from the wizard. I have a staff. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So we get some nice Fresnel lighting on the backside of these characters to help their silhouettes pop. Definitely could do that. Although that is more backlighting, so I wouldn't want to use it for the main light. The only other thing I could think of is I could give this gnome a visible lantern, and that would light them from the bottom left, because gnomes do carry lanterns in Barony, but because of his pose, it would be hard to do that and have it feel right. So I think I'll go with the idea that the fire here on the right side is doing a lot of the lighting, and then we'll just do a general top right light from kind of everything, resulting in, you know, kind of the easiest drop shadow that I can think of, which I am not ashamed to admit that I'm doing it because it makes it a lot easier, because it'll just make it look better when it's easier to execute. This song's giving me some like System Shock 2 vibes. Alright, we got some lighting coming together. I don't know that that was an ending, that song. I feel like it didn't really end, it just sort of stopped playing. Like, I've done a little, like, Fruity Loops composition, and that's what it sounds like when you don't write an outro. And you just stop the loop. You know, you got some instrument that has a long, like, fade-out time. It just, like, finishes that fade-out time, and everything else has already stopped for a while, and you're just like, alright. Hey, well, this music is royalty-free, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, in a pinch, I might be a better musician than that guy. No offense, fingers with a 1 and a 3 replacing some of the letters. So this troll fist that she has in mid-transformation might be close enough to this imp so that it would actually get some front shading instead of just some left shading from it. So I'm gonna experiment that. See how it feels. was a mad chilled out song. I think I got kind of lost in the zone with that one. It's good. It's one of the reasons I listen to music. I'll draw one. Alright, She-Hulk. Get it, girl. Okay, definitely this guitar solo though. So this is by Fingers, and this song rules. And so I feel like this is karma for when I said that I think I was a better composer than that Fingers guy. Because I really like this guitar stuff, and it's way cooler than something I could have done. The other thing I could do to add some lighting is I could have the spell book that the Incubus is holding, I could have it be glowing. So I might do that. It's like everybody but the Insectoid actually can have some light. Like, because the Shaman is mid-transformation, she can have some magical light coming off of her as well. In fact, I should experiment with that pretty soon. It's 5:30. I might have to call it a day soon, as my family's ready for dinner, but I got some time yet. It's actually just incidental that the automaton's headlight is in shadow, and I really like that happened. Really like building all that contrast of it glowing there. Big win, IMO, LOL. Sorry for the lack of conversation. It's just this work is pretty straightforward and almost mathematical. It's just like, okay, me look at angle, me put shadow. So it's not real fascinating to discuss. But it really is bringing a lot of volume to the image, so I'm not complaining. It's like definitely worth it. So we have our 4 characters. They're reasonably shaded. Let's get that gyrocopter shaded too. Might as well. Alright, that's looking fancy. I'd like to do something about this blob shadow. It's been a little... I mean, it's no blob layer, just let me tell you that much. They can't all be winners. Cool lyrics, my favorite. I'll give him a chance. I got somebody knocking at my door. You know what I'm gonna do about it? Ignore it. This is trying to be like a Stranger Things tribute song. I don't know. The correlation with Upside Down and Stranger seems like a coincidence given the popularity of the show. Like a noteworthy coincidence. Not that I mind, of course. When I've seen of Stranger Things, I really like it. I just haven't had time to watch it all yet. Alright, so the goal was to make these things inside the slime look like they're floating in a translucent sludge, and I think I pulled it off with some clever shadowing. Not to toot my own horn. That sludge though. I have an idea. I'm going to select this whole area and fill it, and then, well, first I'm going to deselect the automaton. This is not how I thought that would work. I'm pretty sure this is Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, it's not, but it sounds like it. Working that shadow, boys. That is a G-chat ping. The question is frozen chicken dinner idea. I do like chicken, and I don't mind if it's frozen. A few relevant questions. We got veg. Broccoli, probably. How about white cheese sauce with Italian herb chicken and broccoli? Or we could do bacon wrapped chicken with mozzarella and bacon Brussels sprouts. See how I mentioned bacon twice? Sounds good, huh? Who doesn't want bacon wrapped chicken with Brussels sprouts? Oh, this song sounds cool. Bacon does sound good, doesn't it? Sorry for the ping pings. I'm out. I'm in here dutifully working, and my wife is dutifully trying to provide a dinner she thinks I'll like. Yes, it's still streaming. This looks suitably bleak. fill tool, more like fail tool. Let's see where I need to close the gap. I'm trying to not have to color all this in by hand. I'd rather let the fill tool do most of it. How about that? Yeah, baby. You know, the fill tool is not perfect, but it does save me time in the end. Mostly because all these raster painting programs are like, I have an idea. Let me anti-alias everything for you. And you're like, that's a great idea. My art will look smooth. And they're like, let's also provide a fill tool that can't compensate for that. And I'm like, I'll take that too, please. Thank you. As I'm like doing a little shading work on this water here, I'm just thinking about the first time I was really trying to do a good job on water. I was in high school. I remember asking my, like, I was always such an independent artist. Like, I just wanted to do things my way and want to do things originally. And that didn't mean I didn't try to learn from others. I really did try to learn a lot from others. But I didn't go out of my way to ask for help a lot. I would consult books or just practice and try things until I could, you know, come up with a solution that I liked. But I was working on a fountain, like a sort of a natural, sort of a spring type of scene. For some reason, I'm like feeling like it was sort of pseudo-Japanese in nature. Like I had just sort of recently watched some animes that I actually liked for the first time, and I'm still not an anime fan, but I'd seen some ways that animes like to handle natural beauty and the purity of it, and when it's shown in animes is so like otherworldly, and I was fascinated by that. And so I was drawing a fountain, like a spring, a wild spring, with that idea kind of in mind. But I realized I didn't know how to draw water and have it feel good in pencil, and so I asked her for some advice. And I think the advice that my art teacher at that time gave me was pretty good, and I think he was just happy that somebody was asking him like a hard question, rather than being like, "Why is my perspective wrong, Mr. Worthing?" It was very basic questions, but something as like organic and difficult to execute well on as water, I think he probably appreciated the challenge that I was subjecting myself to. That wasn't just some assignment from class. I was like pursuing art in my own time, and I really wanted to, you know, up my game. As soon as I finish this shading pass, I'm probably going to be done for the day. I don't even know if I'll finish it because I've got all sorts of other stuff in here. All these little cluttered props. My wife asked me for help making dinner, and I like doing that, and it's not often I have a spare day off to just kind of spend with her, so maybe I feel like I'd be missing out if I didn't go spend some time with her helping cook dinner. And besides, I'll get to handle some bacon, so like, what have I got to lose?
Are you listening? I can feel your pulse again, creeping through the rhythms of my heart.
I don't know how I feel about this song.
In the night I feel you here, whispering inside my head, telling me the secrets of my thoughts.
What's really left is this amp. just realized I probably made a mistake by putting this much effort into the shading pass because I haven't even done an inking pass on the environment. That's really what I should have done before I bothered. I think I just got distracted by the shadow pass on the characters, which were ready for it, and so I just went right into doing it for the environment too, and that's probably not what I should have done. Let's see. We'll have to see maybe this weekend how much it's going to affect the final product. Might end up having to cut basically all of this shading I've done other than on the characters. But I really like how it's turned out. So I think with that, it's a good time to go ahead and wrap up the stream. Let me zoom in for one more shot. Let's get rid of these things. You can see what the scene's going to kind of be looking like. We got a lot of hot light around here, right where the imp is. You can see the hard shadows against the fountain. I think that's going to look real good. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Special thanks to Happy Havoc, who stuck around for basically all the stream. It was really good to have some company today. And I feel like I got some substantial work done. It was a lot of fun to do. So, yeah, next time I hope I will finish this piece, and I'll be ready to ship it with Legends and Pariahs. This is one of the bigger art tasks I have on my plate whenever we do a new DLC, is to get a piece of key art that is like cool enough that hopefully will make people want to buy the product. It's definitely what my goal is here. So with that, looks really good. The shading adds huge amounts of dimension. Yeah, thank you, Happy Havoc. I appreciate that. It really does make it feel a lot more like a real place with real volume to it. I'm pretty excited. All right, well, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Am I quoting The Truman Show? I guess so. All right, cheers, bye.